Hey, Steve Mignani here, and you're about to watch episode number 64. Yeah, 64 of the Steve Maggs Muscle Car Show podcast. And if you didn't know, this is where I read from my 2013 book, Steve Mignani's 1001 Muscle Car Facts. And this book was put out by Car Tech Publishing, right there, these guys out there in, I think, Wisconsin, or Minnesota, excuse me. And Car Tech, one of the leaders really in automotive publishing and enthusiast publications. Like every year they come out with 5 or 6 really cool titles. Good stuff, so happy to be part of the family. Anyway, what I do in this book is I read from each chapter, and step by step from fact 1 to 1001, we kind of tell the story of Chevrolet, Pontiac, Olds, Buick, Dodge, Plymouth, Ford, Mercury, and now American Motors. And what we're going to do in this particular episode is Engine and Driveline Facts, American Motors style. And again, I want to thank our host here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts, located at 143 Washington Street. You can call High Octane Classics at 508-859-4515 to learn about cars like this 2018 Demon I'm sitting next to. And it's hard to imagine this is a 4-year-old car. With that said, it's ultra clean, but this is an amazing thing that we live in a world where you can buy an 808 horsepower brand new car that can be perked up to 840 horsepower with the 100 octane chip. And this is the car that actually will do a wheelie from the factory. The Guinness Book of World Records came out and verified that this car will defy gravity for a couple of feet off the line as it goes from 50-50 weight distribution to 0-100 weight distribution. As the weight plants on the tires, it dangles the front tires and runs an 980 in the quarter mile at well over 125-30 miles per hour. So it's amazing. Well, High Octane Classics has one of these and a bunch of other cool stuff. Roadrunners, Mustangs, Shelbys, it's all here. So to learn more, give them a call or check them out online. But in the meantime, let's get started here again with the Steve Maggs Muscle Car Show podcast. And this is American Motors Engine and Driveline Fact 891. Okay, Rambler Rebels equipped with Bendix Electro Ejector fuel injections that campaigned in the 1957 NASCAR Daytona Speed Weeks were pre-production pilot cars. Though none were sold to private individuals, AMC was clearly optimistic the $395 electronic fuel injection system would catch on. Every 1957 Rambler Rebel owner's manual contains a description of the Bendix Electro Ejector's features and benefits, though none were ever sold to John Q. public. In the end, Chrysler adopted a variant of the Bendix system and offered it in 1958 with similarly underwhelming results. Yeah, it's true that EFI, electronic fuel injection as we know it today, is seen on everything. Really. Of course, direct injection is really kind of taken over, but as of 1979, 80, 81, 82, EFI took over from carburetors. And, with the electrons calling the shots with how much fuel goes into the engine, things are way more clean, way more powerful, and way more efficient. So it's the best of both worlds. But 1957, 58, Bendix Corporation, which does and did a lot of aviation stuff, electronics, they came up with the Electro Ejector, which was an analog style tube, a vacuum tube computer thing that sat in front of the radiator behind the grill on the Rebel and on Chrysler, DeSoto, and Dodge vehicles. And basically told a pair of throttle bodies, or in the case of the AMC, one throttle body, how much gas to inject. And basically it was a lot like a modern throttle body injection, an aftermarket piece, like an Edelbrock ProFlow or something like that. So anyway, the trouble with those, of course, was the price, $395, which was a lot of dough in 1957. But with that said, it was a brave idea, but again, none of the Rambler Rebels built for production came with it. They were all Hawley 4-barrel equipped. That's right, a small Hawley 4-barrel. Okay, let's move along to fact 892 with some automatic transmission information. Again, this is Engine and Driveline, AMC style, fact 892. Through the 1971 model year, automatic transmission AMC cars were penalized by the heavy cast iron Borg-Warner units of limited strength and efficiency. For 1972 and beyond, AMC inked a deal with Chrysler to use its superior aluminum case 904 and 727 TorqueFlite automatic transmissions. The AMC cases were specifically cast with bell housing configurations to match AMC engine blocks and are non-interchangeable with Chrysler transmissions. It's too bad these improved automatic transmissions arrived too late for installation in 60s AMC muscle cars from the factory, though they're a popular modern upgrade among restorers and racers. With the equipment switch came a change in nomenclature. The Borg-Warner transmission was called the Shift Command, while AMC sold the Chrysler-sourced torque flights as the Torque Command automatic transmissions. But yeah, that's the story of automatic transmissions. If you look under any AMX from pre-1972 or any of the well, not the SC Rambler, there's always stick shift, but any of the 401 powered automatic cars, they had a cast iron automatic from Borg-Warner until 1972 when they finally got the lightweight Chrysler Torque Flight, which was a far better transmission. But, you know, progress takes time. Okay, more AMC V8 stuff with Fact 893. The second generation AMC V8 arrived in 1966, but was only available in the compact American platform, the small compact Rambler American, displacing 290 cubic inches. Buyers specifying a larger V8 in 1966, AMC models like the Classic, the Marlin, and the Ambassador soldiered on with the hefty first generation 287 or 327 V8. 1966 is the only model year that both engine families were produced simultaneously. At 620 pounds, the first generation V8, 250, 287, 327, was far too heavy for use in the compact American platform. An issue that the thin wall 290 easily addressed with its 475 pound weight, 150 pounds lighter. So again, we talked about this in an earlier episode. The 327 cubic inch displacement was well known in Chevrolet, but it was something that was similar, but not at all like the AMC 327. They shared the number, but the AMC V8 was a whole different creature. They had the same bore and stroke, which is kind of crazy, but the AMC V8 was a product of the 1950s. It's thick, it's heavy, whereas the Chevy small block 1962 up 327 was a much lighter design based on the Mouse, the 265 lightweight thin wall small block of 1955 and beyond. So the AMC 290 was kind of a nice tribute to the Chevy small block. It was thin, it was small, and it put AMC on almost equal footing when it came to high performance. Okay, let's move on to Fact 894 and go back to that first generation AMC V8 and a strange version of it. The 287 cubic inch variant of the first generation AMC V8 arrived halfway through the 1963 model year. It was the result of persistent dealer complaints stemming from the discontinuation of the base 250 cubic inch V8 after the 1960 model year. It was a move that left Rambler dealers without an optional V8 for the popular Classic midsize line, which accounted for 58% of total sales volume. The 1963.5 287 provided an alternative to the straight six and was purely an economy engine. It stands as the only AMC V8 never offered with a 4-barrel carburetor. All 287s were fitted with the economical 2-barrel induction and single exhaust. By contrast, the 1956 through 60 250 V8 was available with an optional Holley 4-barrel carburetor. Yeah, it's kind of weird. If you look back at the history of the American overhead valve V8 engine, push rods, etc., from the post-war era, many of them came with 2 barrels, but when you talked 4-barrel, well, then you were talking about the high-performance version. And often with a 4-barrel came dual exhaust, and there you had your sort of middle-of-the-road high-performance engine. When you added dual 4 barrels, or dual quads, or triple 2 barrels, tri-power, well, then you were talking sort of an extra performance muscle car kind of an engine. But again, that unusual 287 AMC V8 was strictly a 2-barrel engine, no 4 barrels at all, although the 327 or 250 4-barrel manifold could be bolted on to a 287. So it could be done, but not at the factory. All right, this is kind of interesting. This is Fact 895, and it has to do with aluminum engine blocks. I have personally inspected an all-aluminum first-generation Rambler 327 V8 block and heads. The property of noted Rambler historian Larry Dahm, the prototype sand-cast aluminum components were made by Alcoa in the late 1950s and were part of an interest-building campaign meant to attract business from Detroit automakers. Alcoa also rendered other popular engines in aluminum at the time. No fruits of this project ever reached the showroom floor. In fact, here is a picture right there of that Rambler 327 aluminum heads and block. And again, I did some research on this thing, and apparently Alcoa, the aluminum company of America, or aluminum corporation of America, one of the leaders in making aluminum parts and things for the automotive aftermarket, let alone aviation, ships, aircraft, all that kind of stuff. They made a bunch of clones of American V8s out of aluminum on their own initiative, and then showed them to Detroit automakers to say, hey, we can subcontract aluminum blocks and heads for you if you want us to make them. Well, nobody took the bait, not even AMC. They made their own aluminum stuff later, but it wasn't like this. But that said, a handful of these aluminum V8s absolutely made production. And this engine right here had been assembled and was a running engine at one point in time. In fact, if you go to the back issues of Hemmings Classic Car magazine, just Google Hemmings Classic Car, Rambler 327 aluminum V8, Steve Magnanti, you'll probably find my story online where I did a deep dive on this engine. And I marveled at the integrally cast iron cylinder liners and all these weird numbers and stampings on the thing. You know, experimental, heat test, that kind of stuff. It was pretty cool. But the aluminum heads and block existed, maybe 20, 30 engines, but they were purely for pre-production prototype testing, never made it to the showroom floor. But there's more. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, fact number 896, let's talk more about the second gen AMC V8. American Motors lead engineer Dave Potter endowed the 1966 up second generation V8 with generous 4.75-inch bore centers. And the bore center is the measured distance between the center lines of adjoining cylinder bores. The greater the distance, the more cubic inches can be made because the cylinders can be made larger. Okay, the greater the bore center, the more displacement potential exists. This detail enabled the same basic engine block to yield between 290 and 390 cubic inches with minor revisions. The bore center measurement of competing V8 engine blocks is generally similar. Again, the AMC was 4.75. By comparison, Buick 350s, 4.24. The Ford small block, 4.38. The Chevy small block, 4.4. Mopar 273 to 360 small block, 4.46. Oldsmobile 330 to 455, 4.625 inches. Pontiac 287 to 455, 4.62 inches. And the Ford 332 to 428 FE engine, 4.63 inches. Only a handful of popular Detroit V8s employed a larger bore center spacing. Again, AMC had 4.75 inches between the center of each bore. That's a pretty big distance, bigger than all the engines previously noted. The only engines bigger were the Buick 400 to 455, which had the same 4.75-inch bore spacing as AMC. The Mopar 350 to 440 big block was a little bigger, 4.80 inches bore to bore. The Chevy big block 396 to 454, 4.84 inches bore to bore. And the big guy, Cadillac 472 to 500, had a 5-inch bore center number, which was a 1/4 inch larger than American Motors. But again, with that said, with that huge bore spacing, the AMC 390 could have maybe gone to 440 cubic inches without any real trouble. But again, we all know that 401 was the maximum number that American Motors went with. But again, the AMC block with its 4.75-inch bore spacing has room for a lot of growth. Okay, let's move along now to more small or AMC second gen V8 info with fact 897. The 1966 up second generation 290, 343, 360 production V8 engines utilized inexpensive cast iron connecting rods and cranks. But AMC new buyers of the 390 and 401s would push their engines harder, so the 390 and 401 came with stronger forged steel rods and cranks. So basically, if you're looking to hot rod your AMC V8, if you're really going to push it, you want a 390 or a 401 because they have forged guts. The earlier engines, the smaller engines, I should say, have cast parts. Now, the difference between a forging and a casting is probably 20% in strength. If you're really going to push it, you want to have forged stuff if you can. Okay, let's move along here. More engine block info, kind of interesting and obscure with fact 898. For the 1970 model year, AMC increased the deck height of the V8 engine block by 0.16 inch to allow extra stroke and more displacement. These blocks are visually similar to the second generation 290, 343, and 390, but the extra block height is different enough that AMC engine builders refer to them as third generation engines. That, of course, being, again, the 360 and the 401. The 1970 up tall deck V8 blocks increase the distance between the cylinder heads, which bars the use of earlier 1966 to 69 low deck intake manifolds and push rods. To prevent confusion, AMC altered the intake manifold fastener pattern on 70 up heads to prevent mixing parts, which causes intake track misalignment. So it is true, there's actually a third generation AMC V8, and that would be the tall deck 1970 up 360 and 401, which are different from the 304, which would be a shorter block. So again, if you have a 1968 AMX 390 intake manifold, it ain't gonna work on your 360 or your 401. Again, you'll find that out because the bolt pattern is gonna be different. And again, AMC did that on purpose to prevent people from mixing them up. And the mix-up would result in port mismatches. The ports wouldn't line up properly. So again, there are actually three generations of AMC V8s. The ones from the 50s, the 250, 287, 327, and of course the 290 through 390. And then of course the 360 and 401 tall decks from 70 on up. Now you know. Okay, more on that tall deck engine with fact 899. The 1970 tall deck block spurred displacement growth. The 290 grew into the 304, the 343 grew into the 360. Curiously, the 390 engine remained at 390 cubes for 1970, despite the added deck height. Knowing an all-new Javelin was slated for 1971, AMC elected to postpone growing the 390 into the 401 for a year. To retain the 390 cubic inch displacement and defeat the effect of the extra 0.6 inch of extra cylinder height, AMC juggled connecting rod length and piston pin location to maintain the 4.16 by 3.68 recipe of the 390 for 1970, 1 year only. As such, 1970 390 pistons and rods are specialized and cannot be used in 68 and 69 390 applications. So again, the devil and salvation are found in the details. So if you have a 1970 390, you have a 1 year wonder. Build accordingly. Okay, facts 900, more about that tall deck engine, another detail. The 0.16 inch taller deck height of the V8 block introduced for 1970 uses larger half-inch diameter head bolts versus the smaller 17th inch fasteners used in 1966 through 69. Again, it was another area where AMC did two things at the same time. They increased the clamping power on the gasket, which is a fine thing. There's never anything wrong with that with bigger bolts, but they also prevented the mixing of parts from 1970 with earlier engines by differing the size of the head bolts. When you see the bolts don't fit, you might say, okay, what's up here? You open your book and then you prevent yourself from making potentially expensive mistakes building your AMC engine. And remember, 1970 tall deck, do extra research before you build a 1970 up AMC V8 to get the right parts. Okay, fact number 901. AMC never deployed 4-bolt main bearing caps in any of its many production V8 engine block castings. The closest it came was a limited edition 1970 Mark Donahue Javelin, of which 2,501 were built. When equipped with the standard 364 barrel, which has a P in the 7th spot of the VIN, P for 360 high performance, Donahue Javelins were equipped with a specially cast block with thicker main journal webs. The added heft was included so engine builders, namely SCCA race car teams, could install 4-bolt caps on their own. Chrysler played a similar game in 1970 with the thick web 340 TA blocks installed in every Challenger TA and AAR CUDA. Ironically, Donahue Javelins ordered with the optional X-Code 390 were not fitted with the extra thick block. Frustratingly, these special thick web 360 blocks carry no specific markings and require disassembly and inspection for verification. Kind of a weird thing, but you got to remember that the 360 was the engine that American Motors would have used to de-stroke to 302 or 5 liters of displacement, as all car makers had to do for SCCA legalization. So as we saw with the Challenger TA and AAR CUDA, those blocks were also cast with extra meat, but they had the same 2-bolt caps as a regular 340 or a 318 or a 360 or 273. Same thing in 1970, the 360P code, AMC 360. That engine, you got to look close, but if you take it apart, you'll sometimes find thicker webs, which are then ready to be machined, drilled and tapped for 4-bolt caps. So again, they baked in extra potential for the Trans Am homologation engines, but again, only found on Mark Donohue cars. So again, the devil and salvation are both found in the details. Before we move on to fact number 902, I want to thank our sponsors here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts, specifically at 143 Washington Street in Auburn, Massachusetts. I'm sitting here with one of over 100 cars on stock here at High Octane Classics, a 2018 Demon. This is the 808 horsepower monster, and this one does have the Demon crate right behind me, which comes with the 100 octane button and calibration, which takes this thing up to 840 horsepower, where it'll absolutely run deep into the nines. And this is a production car, which is an amazing thing. And beyond this, High Octane Classics does have a lot of specialty cars, Corvettes, Porsches, some Mercedes, Roadrunners, Chevelles, Camaros, they got it all. So if you want to learn more, go to the highoctaneclassics.com website or give them a call at 508-859-4515. Okay, let's get back to the book, and let's look at fact 902. And let's talk about more Javelin engines. Okay, working with a restricted budget, AMC standardized many castings for use across the entire line. In the case of pre-1970 exhaust manifolds, the same log-style castings installed on 290 two-barrel station wagons were also used on GoPack 390 AMXs. Headers solved this problem. The frugality worked well for 1970 and beyond, when all head castings received a new dog-leg exhaust port shape. All head castings. Far more efficient than pre-1970 heads, the same basic dog-leg port head casting with adjusted valve and chamber sizes were installed on everything from the 304 to the 401. The iron exhaust manifolds were also vastly improved for 1970 to match the 1970 up dog-leg heads. These heads and manifolds are popular performance upgrades for earlier engines. And when we talk about the dog-leg exhaust port, we're talking about something that's not quite rectangular. It actually has a little kick in the bottom, kind of like a Mopar 340, same idea. And that was something that improved exhaust flow. And again, you'll find that on every AMC V8 from 1970 right up to the end, the dog leg stuff. 304, 360, 401, it's all there. Again, there's differences in valve sizing and chamber sizing, but the basic casting is the same. And that's how AMC made one part do many jobs to cut costs. Okay, let's move along now to the AMC 390 with fact 903. 390-powered AMC muscle cars, regardless of body type, used an improved version of the Borg-Warner M11 3-speed automatic transmission teamed with a less potent 290 and 343 V8s. To keep pace with the extra torque, stronger input and output shafts plus a larger clutch pack were adopted. The resulting extra-duty transmission for 390 cars was designated the M12 instead of M11. The M12 pan, oil pan that is, fluid pan, held a different volume of transmission fluid, so M11 and M12 dipsticks must not be switched. Doing so yields inaccurate fluid level readings and possible damage. The M12 heavy-duty automatic was also used behind the 401 in 1971 and before the 1972 model year when the Chrysler Source Torque Command Torque Flight arrived on the scene. So it's a classic thing. If you have an M11 low-performance automatic Borg-Warner or an M12 heavy-duty high-performance one, the dipsticks are different length because the pans are deeper or shallower, and you can accidentally get either too much or too little fluid. So make sure you got the right dipstick in your M11 or your M12 Borg-Warner automatic in your pre-72 AMC V8 muscle car. Okay, let's move along now, speaking of muscle, to American Motors' flirtation with NHRA Superstock drag racing with fact number 904. AMC's most aggressive high-performance power plant was the 1969 Superstock 390. As delivered to 53 lucky retail customers, these engines featured John's 12.3-to-1 forged pistons, an Edelbrock cross-ram intake packing dual Hawley double pumpers, Doug Thorley headers, and blueprinted cylinder heads. To ease shipment, the engines were capable of running, but like Chrysler's 1968 Hurst Hemi A-body Dart and Barracuda program, the stock AMX camshaft was wisely installed. The goal was to ensure a complete engine teardown prior to race day. The SSAMX package was a potent bundle of raw material. It was up to the racer and the engine builder to maximize it for victory. In fact, here's a picture right here of a 1969 Superstock Rambler AMX engine. You can see the cross-ram intake manifold, the dual Holley double bumpers. And while this is a great effort, these cars, again, were all delivered in Arctic white. It was up to you to paint it or letter it or do what you wanted to do. But they were built without heaters, without horns. We talked about that, I think, in episode number 61 or 62. But again, those Hurst-built AMXs were cool. Now here's the downside. Only 53 were built. And just to show how crazy far we've come, this 2018 Demon, there were 3,300 of these things built. These run 980s, 990s, which is quicker than any AMX Superstock Javelin, which might run 1060, something like that. So we've come a long way. And these are production cars. You can drive this thing down the Mass Pike or from Boston to California all day, all night, no big deal. Whereas the AMX Superstock engine with its triple valve springs and roller cam, you know, you drive that for 100 miles on a highway, it's probably going to eat up the valve springs. So we've come a long way. But this is great stuff. They're all important. They're all bricks in the chimney to get us to where we are now. Okay, fact 905. We'll talk about the SC360 Hornet, the Hornet now getting some love. Okay, fact 905. Even though the 1971 Hornet SC360 engine came with a standard 2-barrel carburetor and single exhaust, it arrived just in time to take advantage of the new for 1970 dog-leg cylinder heads that we just talked about and free-flowing tuned exhaust manifolds incorporated into every AMC V8 regardless of displacement, from 304 to 401. AMC priced the 245 horsepower base model at just $2,663 and anticipated sales in excess of 10,000 units. Again, we're talking about the SC360 of 1971, the Hornet. A costly full-page color magazine ad was placed in the major enthusiast publications to get the ball rolling, and Kenosha even assigned a specific body class code in the 6th spot of the VIN, which is 1. Unfortunately, only 784 customers took the bait and bought SC360s. They're very rare cars, very unusual. And again, the SC360 Hornet is not a very sexy car. It's kind of a boxy looking thing. Only 2 doors, no 4 doors, no wagons, no hatchbacks. But again, SC360 is sleeper. They always had like a little graphic on the front fender right about right here that said SC360. And pretty cool, really. Most Hornets came with a 304 or a 258 or a 232, but the SC360 had a 360. More SC360 info with fact number 906. Hornet SC360 buyers could step up to the Go Pack for $199 and get a 4-barrel carburetor, dual exhaust, heavy-duty suspension, a tachometer, and 285 horsepower from 245 with the 2-barrel and single exhaust, so 285 horsepower. 578 of the 784 SC360s built with the P-code 364 barrel. The other 206 got the N-code 362 barrel, which could not be ordered with the 4-speed. So again, 2/3 of the SC360s roughly came with the 4-barrel and dual exhaust, while 1/3 came with the 2-barrel and single exhaust. Many, but not all, Go Packs came with functional ram air hood scoops made by Rockwell Industries, who also make rockets and jets. Kind of interesting. But they also make parts for the auto manufacturers. Dual exhaust was also optional for $31 on the base 2-barrel 360. Often overlooked is the fact that 362 and 4-barrel engine was available in any Hornet model and body type in 1971, not just the SC360. Now, I just mentioned a moment ago, the SC360 was a specific 2-door body style. The package was certainly a 2-door deal, but you could get the 364 barrel in a hatchback or a 4-door if you wanted it. You can imagine what a sleeper that would be, a 285 horsepower 364 barrel dual exhaust in a 4-door Hornet painted black or white with dog dishes. That'd be a cool sleeper. But again, the SC360 muscle car was strictly a 2-door proposition. And again, only 784 were made. And AMC predicted 10,000 units. But again, 71 was the year that the insurance industries crashed. The muscle car era pretty much came to a tumbling end with the energy crisis, with the ecology movement. So it was poor timing. But they're very rare cars today. If you see them, you'll know. They get very bold graphics. SC360 right there. Cool stuff. Okay, fact 907. Speaking of SC360s, now I wrote this book right here back in 2012 or so. It came out in 2013. So I wrote this from my house in North Brookfield, Massachusetts, which is probably about 25 miles from where I'm sitting right now at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts. So let's get on with fact 907, speaking of that distance. As this is written, 2012. My office sits less than 1,000 feet from a rural Massachusetts street intersection where I spotted my first Hornet SC360. The year was 1978, and it was likely sold new by J.C. Lane AMC in North Brookfield, Massachusetts, or Guzik Jeep AMC in Ware, Massachusetts. By the time I saw it in 1978, it was a 7-year-old car, and rust had taken the quarter panels, but the B7 brilliant green original paint and faded white side stripes caught my eye, as did the fact it lacked the optional ram air hood scoop. I recall hearing the driver manipulate a clutch from the stop sign, so I knew it wasn't an automatic car. The non-ram air hood suggests the possibility it was a 2-barrel car. And since the 4-speed wasn't offered with the 2-barrel mill, research shows it was likely one of 19 3-speed manual cars built. The other 187 2-barrel cars had the BorgWarner automatic. I lost track of the car by 1980 and sadly have no idea where it is today. That's the crazy thing. Now everybody walks around with a smartphone in their pocket. We take pictures of what we had for lunch. But back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, taking a photograph of something, especially a car passing by on the street, took planning. Had your camera, your film ready to go, take it and develop it. So that car exists only in my memory, but I remember it vividly. It was a green car, white stripes, kind of rusty, but there it was, a 3-speed manual, probably 362 barrel, one of 13 built SC360 Hornet in North Brookfield, Mass. I'm surely it's been junked between here and there, but I saw that car roll around town a few times. And again, it lives on in my memory, kind of like the Knight Rider or Mad Max. There you go. Okay, fact 908. Excluding the limited run of hand-built dual Holley 1969 Superstock AMX engines, Kenosha used Carter AFB carburetors on all second-generation 290 through 390 4-barrel engines built from 1966 through 1969. With between 400 and 625 CFM depending on throttle bores, the AFB was a decent performance carb, as proven by its tandem use atop the Mopar 413 and 426 Max Wedge and 426 Street Hemi. Things took a turn in 1970 with the phase-in of Motorcraft 4300 Series 4-barrel and 2-barrel carburetors on Amc V8s. These carburetors, also used extensively on Ford vehicles, were better suited to reducing emissions rather than making power. Their arrival in 1970 partially dulled the improvements brought by the dog-leg heads and free-flow exhaust manifolds. So yeah, there you have it. The Carter AFB, which stands for aluminum 4-barrel, was the carburetor of choice for American motors, again, with the exception of 1969 Superstock dual-quad AMX engines. Okay, fact 909. Let's go to the junkyard. And junkyard shoppers might be surprised to see desirable 401 engines lurking in some odd places. We all know the 401 can be found in certain 1971 through 79 full-size Jeeps, Wagoneers, Cherokees, J10s, and J20s, but other hiding places include 1973 through 74 International Harvester pickups and Travelalls, and a large number of pre-1980 AM General delivery vans. Yes, 401 AMC engines in delivery vans. Recently, I spotted a lineup of 5 401-powered former U.S. Post Office AM General vans languishing in a Los Angeles self-serve wrecking yard. It all makes sense. Remember, AM General was formed after AMC's 1970 purchase of Jeep from Kaiser Industries. The former General Products division of Jeep was renamed AM General in 1971, and access to AMC engines was a forklift ride away. So again, keep your eyes open. The 401 AMC V8 is, to AMC people, it's like finding a Max Wedge. To Chevy people, it's like finding an L88 427. The 401 is as good as it got in the world of AMCs. And yes, you can find them in Jeep Wagoneers, Cherokees, and AM General work vans and postal vans. Keep an eye out. And one thing too is on the side of the AMC block, the cubic inch displacement, 290, 304, 360, 343, 401, 390, they're all cast on the side of the block, and numbers about that big. They're big, you can see them. So go under that van, take a peek, you might find a 401. All right, fact 910, the final fact in our Engine and Driveline subchapter on American Motors vehicles. Here it is, fact 910. With their one-size-fits-all external appearance, identifying 290 to 401 AMC engines might seem a challenge. Fear not. Every block except for certain service replacement items and the exclusive 1970 thick web marked-on U360 casting bears its displacement in 1-inch tall numerals positioned on both sides of the external face of the crankcase. You can find them on the surface between the oil pan rail and cylinder head. If the engine is in the car, a mirror might be needed. No other Detroit V8 engine block is as easy to verify. I just mentioned that, and of course it's funny, I wrote the book, so it figures that I should mention this before it comes up as a fact, but it is true. Amc V8 engines are easy to identify. Just look at the side of the block under the oil, between the oil pan and exhaust manifold. On that wall, you'll see the numbers right there. Now that doesn't apply to the first gen Amc V8s, which were the 327s, 287s, 250s of 1957 through 60, whatever it was. But the second gen engines, yeah, you can tell them a mile away. Just take a peek at the bottom. Well, that kind of wraps it up for the engine and driveline component of my 1001 Muscle Car Facts. This book is, I think it's out of production. It doesn't really matter. You can still find it on Amazon and sometimes at Barnes & Noble. And I certainly want to thank our sponsors here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts, which is a fully functioning supercar and collector car dealership. You can hear they're alive and well. There's action happening all around me right now, which is why we want it. This wonderful 2018 Demon is readily available. Of course, today is March 8th, 2022. This might be gone by the time you see or hear this podcast, but there's lots of other cars, like 100 of them here. So give them a check out at the High Octane Classics website, or give them a call at 508-859-4515. So I'll be back with more AMC goodies on the next episode, and until then, hasta mañana.